We're going to kind of break this into 2 sessions, really. A lot of you will be able to go probably after 30 minutes to an hour at the most. What I want to do is familiarize you with what you have in your system, show you how to push some buttons, turn lights on and off, and then the majority of you can probably go, because we'll get then into the actual dimmer racks themselves, the hardcore of what the equipment is. That is going to be more of interest to the maintenance personnel and to the actual technical staff for the theater. The care and feeding of the dimming system that will not have anything to do with your day-to-day operation and will probably either bore you or lose you on a lot of the stuff that you really don't care about. So what I would rather do at this point is let's walk around the space. We're going to push some buttons, see how to turn the lights on and off. I taught college for a long time. There are no stupid questions. If you have a question while this is going on, jump up and down, wave your hands, slap me, say, wait, I don't understand this. There is no such thing as a stupid question here. Okay? So, when you're coming into the space, you've really got 2 different types of lights that you're controlling here. You've got your house lighting system, and then you've got the stage lights. But they are all controlled together. There's an architectural processor that's back in the dimmer room, we'll take a look at in a little while, that allows you to have some button stations. There's some stations out at the doors. There are also a couple of LCD touch screens that you'll be able to do a lot of different things. I'm assuming we have the music department and the theater department, dance if you got it. These are the people that will be interested in being able to come in for rehearsals and turn lights on and off and do a bunch of different things. But you have the capability here of setting up a lot of different looks and being able to just come in and push a button and recall a look without having any technical expertise at all. You're not going to have to touch the control console. That's pretty much going to be in the hands, I would assume, of the theater technical staff. There will be someone who will say, I've got control of the console, let's coordinate everything through me. It could be through maintenance, could be through principal's office. I don't know who it's going to be. I've done a lot of different schools, a lot of different ways that this is set up. But day-to-day operation, you've got an incredibly versatile, flexible system. The control console, which I'll be dealing with tomorrow with basically 4 or more hours of training, is not for everybody to get into. There's an awful lot of individual control, recording looks, recording cues, bringing lights up and down on times that you'll want for shows. What we're interested in for you is, I've got a simple event. I don't need somebody running the control console. I don't need somebody at the sound console. I want to come in and push a button and turn on the lights. That's what we're about. The thing to remember, though, with all of this is we really have 2 ways of controlling the lights. The architectural system that I'm talking about now, that is what you'll be doing, pushing buttons, and the theatrical system, the control console, which is sitting over there next to the soundboard. They work in concert with each other. Whoever is sending the highest level to the lights wins. So if the control console says, I want these lights at 75%, and the architectural system says, I want these lights at 100%, the architectural system wins. If the architectural system says, I'm out, then the control console totally wins. If the control console is all out, the architectural system wins. So if you come in and you're trying to turn off some lights, and you've done all of the off functions you can think of in the architectural system, that's because the control console is still sending a signal. Or I can't get lights to come down from a level. Architectural system still has them on, and you're running things up and down in the control console. So you have to understand, when I'm using a system, which system am I using? Am I pressing buttons on architectural control, or am I running things from the control console? Or am I doing both? Because it's entirely possible to run all of your house lights through the architectural and all of your theatrical lights through the console. That's something I'll really stress tomorrow when we're doing the console training. But for you people, be aware that if you can't turn something off, and that's what you're going to wind up more than anything, I can't turn something off, it's probably because the other system, the architectural system or the theatrical control console, has those lights on. So as you're coming into the building, you're either coming in through the backstage entrances. I would assume the majority of you, though, would be coming in from the school proper. I want to come into the place and I want to turn the lights on. How do I do that? In either one of the vestibules, you got a station. And here's where we go on big tour of the facility. We're going to look and actually push the buttons and turn the lights on and off. So if you'll follow me, we'll come out in the vestibule. Right behind you. Who wants to be the volunteer? I know how to push buttons. You need to get the joy of turning the lights on and off. All right, Jan. As you walk in, you're going to find a station on the wall that says on off. And that's what it does. It turns the lights on, it turns the lights off. So if you toggle that switch once, it was in a dim green mode. That meant it had been, the preset had been changed. I'll cover that in a second. Hit it again. And the light here went off. And you notice the lights here are fading out. We're on a 5-second fade right now with these. So if you come in and there's no light on there at all, you push it, and you get all of your house lights. You'll see this is kind of an odd thing. Maintenance people might be interested in this. We got 2 little black dots on here right now. There are magnets behind this that are actually holding the cover plate onto the wall. And so what happens, clips in from the top, and then the magnets grab it on the bottom. Dust in the air, any dust in the air that has metallic parts tends to collect right where the magnets are. It can't hurt anything. You can wipe these down with Windex, water, whatever, wipe them off. I just did it with my thumb. They're gone. So there's nothing wrong with your system when you see these little black dots appearing. But basically this is it. This is not rocket science here. You want to walk into the building, turn on the lights, push it. If the light is out, the lights are not on. If the light's a bright green like it is right now, it is fully in the preset. It's possible, though, through either the architectural system or the control console, for somebody to have changed a level. The system is smart enough to say, yeah, you played this preset, but I'm not really in the preset anymore. Something has changed. At that point, the light is a dim green. If it's dim green, you hit it once, it'll go full bright. That has restored the preset. Hit it again, that will turn the lights off. So basically, you know, looking at this, if it's any color of green, I got some lights on. I want the lights off. Hit it until there's no light on here, the lights will be off. If the light is on, push it once, you get lights. The really cool thing about this is we are not stuck with what this is at the moment. Right now, this has been recorded with all of your house lights and a couple of lights on the stage, fluorescents, coming on full. This look can be re-recorded on a daily basis if you so choose, to have some of the lights at 50%, some of them at full, some of them 25. Anything you want them to be will not change what you're doing here. It's re-recording the preset so that when you push this button, you're recalling general preset 1. And the button itself is hard-coded. It just says, play the preset. So we'll look at how to re-record that when we get around to one of the other stations. Questions here? We can move en masse to the other side, but basically it's exactly the same thing. You walk in the doors on the other side, there's another station like this, and the state of the buttons will track. The button stations are stupid. Yes? How do you make sure that the general public isn't playing with this? That the 5-year-old kid that gets away from Barb during the show and looks at the pretty green light doesn't try and make the light.
Like little bars?
No, we've got even better than that. I'm going to show you on a touch screen in just a second. There is a button that you push that says lock stations. And for a show, you lock the stations so that the child can come up and push that button all day long. And what will happen at this point, we'll look at this in a second, but when you lock the stations, you come up and push this, the button will now flash at you and said, yeah, you're not doing anything wrong. I'm locked out, so you can't do anything. And there's a safety net that's been put into this because this can happen a lot. Somebody locks out the stations for a show, the show ends and everybody goes home for the night, the cleaning crew comes in the next morning and they're going, why can't I get the lights on? There's an automatic daily timed event that at midnight it unlocks the stations. So if somebody forgets to unlock the station at the end of a show, the cleaning crew is not going to be stuck when they come in to do the house.
Can we unlock it?
Yes.
If we have to, I mean, is there a spot we can go and just unlock it?
Yeah, you'll have to go back to the touch screen to unlock the station. And there are two touchscreens. One of them is portable. There are 4 places you can plug it in. The other one is hard mounted to the wall backstage, and we will take a look at that. But if you're saying, can I come in here and unlock a station? No. You would have to go to one of the other touchscreen stations, push the button that says unlock stations, at which point they will unlock. Okay.
Oh, I do have one more question.
Yes.
If you're doing a show and you've got this set, and of course you want the lights on when the like intermission
Right.
before the show, and then off, so you have to unlock it and relock it?
No. No. Also, great question.
Oh, through the light board? Okay.
Through the light board or through the touchscreen. Once again, this is the interaction between the control console and the architectural processor. And this is a good point. Let's go back out to the center of the house, and I'll show you the major difference between the two. What a great group. I love this. Questions? Well, I know most of...
Ignorance is bliss.
No, I know most of you are teachers. How much do you hate talking to your class for half an hour and you see these blank faces staring up at you and go, "Hey, any questions?" And they all go, It's like, yeah, we got all that.
Do they run the shows from down here, or?
You have an option. You can run it from here, or you can run it from the control booth, or you can run it from backstage. This is one of the beauties these days of networking. You can plug something in almost anywhere. All right, so architectural control is happening from this device here. I need another guinea pig. Somebody wants to push buttons.
I do.
Okay. The little black box here is actually part of your architectural system, not part of your theatrical control. So if you notice right now the screen is blank. Come up, don't even touch it, just wave your hand in front of it. Come a little closer. Yeah, make a liar out of me. All right, just touch it. The proximity sensor needs to be reset.
What am I touching? Oh.
There we go.
There we go.
Touch it once, it will wake up the screen. And when it first came up, there was a clock on it. That's kind of a splash timeout home page. If you touch the clock anywhere on there, it now takes you to this first page. And we'll get an opportunity for maybe everybody to come up and see. But on the first page, this is kind of a home index page. On the left-hand side, you see 5 buttons that say General 1, 2, 3, 4, and off. And then 2 buttons beside it in blue, one that says up and one that says down. General 1, 2, 3, 4 are general preset looks. These are re-recordable, and General 1 is what's being recalled by the button stations out in the foyers. So if we make General 1 do something different than what it's doing right now, the next time you push a button out there, that's the kind of lighting it's going to recall. The up and downs will allow you, each push of those buttons will raise and lower the entire look, whether it's a bunch of theatrical lights, house lights, whatever, will take them up 10% or down 10%. Now if you're at full, obviously the up button isn't going to do anything for you. But from here, if you push the down button once, we're going down 10%, just keep pushing it several times. Notice that our house lights are getting dimmer, 10% at a time. And if you go the other way, they'll start coming back up.
Is it automatic that if you just keep your finger on that,
Yep.
it automatically takes
Yes, it is. Yep. The longer you press and hold. The thing is about doing that, it does work, but it goes pretty quickly. It starts to go 10.
Sometimes you might want.
You might.
I was just saying how that works.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's great. That's why I want
learned
somebody
by
else
doing.
pushing the button. Yes.
So if you've adjusted, you've played and you've taken the lights down to 70%, if you immediately wanted to go back to 100%, you would just push.
Just push General 1 again. Correct.
So then it'll automatically.
Yes,
So this is down.
House lights control stage lighting too?
they can. They don't. Yep.
And it'll just come up on its own.
Yep.
You took it down,
Yeah.
Yep.
and when you took it down, there was rainbow.
Okay, because she pushed up. Yeah, this is a real good point. General 1 has the capability of recording all of the house lights and all of the stage lights. Right now in General 1, all of the house lights are recorded in 100%. all of the stage lights are recorded in at 0. So now if you start hitting up, you're taking all of these lights that are at 0 and you're bringing them up 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%. If we go down at this point, they're already down. So each time you push up, go ahead, you're going to start to get all of your stage lighting.
So technically speaking, your house could be, your general one could be up, so your house is at 100%, but then you can continue to hit the up to bring up your stage lighting.
Yes,
And that's just the way one is programmed right now, but you can reprogram it.
you can reprogram it. Yes.
But if you want to fade house up, lights up, you do that on the board.
Yes. Here's the great point. This is kind of a second control console, but this is not meant for actually running a show. It's for the simple events where the principal's coming in today to give a lecture. I want to push one button that's going to bring the house lights up. Well, I want to turn on the house lights when I come in. House lights are at full. I can push General 2, which brings the house lights down to 50% and brings on a couple of lights at the podium. It's one button. It doesn't mean I got to have a board operator to come and turn on the whole console. Yes?
And that would be provided that the lighting is all still aimed in the General 1
Oh, yes.
original program.
Yes.
But if you have a show and you've re-aimed all your lights and you try and bring in a guest speaker or you try and bring in a concert, then when you hit General 1 or try and go up, your lighting will not be as originally
Correct.
recorded.
Yes.
So
the
it's all-
levels will be there.
But your light focus will not because
Correct.
those have been refocused.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. Because the question came up, actually, I met Jan on the stage just beforehand, and she asked, were there any moving lights? You do not have any moving lights in the package that I've seen here so far. You have the capability of controlling moving lights. And my suggestion would be either start looking at budgeting for them, or moving lights are a wonderful thing, but people get really fascinated by the lights that flash and trash and do all cool things. They require a lot of care and feeding and maintenance. They're fairly expensive. If you need them and you know that you need them, rent them for a show. Use them for a couple weeks, pay a few bucks for them, and send them back instead of having to buy a lot of expensive lights and try and maintain them as well. If you find that you need them all the time, then invest in a couple of them and add them to your permanent stock. But on the whole, you've got a pretty good lighting setup here. And for those of you that aren't real familiar with the scenario, what we're talking about here is the lights get aimed or focused on a show-by-show basis. And this thrills me. I mean, usually I do this and they say, oh yeah, we're going to have all these people show up, and 5 people show up or 2 people show up. This is great to see this kind of interest for people to come in and say, we actually want to understand how our system works. Once things are aimed and focused, you can use them that way for months at a time. But if there's coordination between the different departments, you say, all right, for this show, we've got the lights focused here. Yes, the levels get recorded into the system, but General 1 could look totally different tomorrow if the lights are refocused. So this first page is really pretty simplistic. General 1, 2, 3, 4, and off will basically turn everything off. The question came up, how do we lock or unlock the stations? Right in the center, there are 2 amber buttons that say lock stations and unlock stations. If someone wants to push lock stations, please. It now turns red and it tells you the stations are locked. This is really pretty intuitive here. I can look at this and know the stations have been locked out. Now you can push these wall buttons all day long and all they're going to do is flash at you. The 5-year-old kid that got away from mom can just go to town pushing the button, no problem. Yes?
At midnight, does that reset?
It sure does.
Thank you.
Every night at midnight. And when it resets, it will go back to, if you now push the button under it that says station, unlock stations, it comes back, now it's amber again, and it tells you the stations are unlocked. So this is pretty intuitive. You can look at it and know, are my stations locked? Are they unlocked? Oops, I forgot. At midnight, even better than unlocking the stations, the consultant, because you had a theatrical consultant on this job that specified exactly what we're supposed to do with programming. At 11 p.m., if the lights are on, they will flash twice, which tells you you have 5 minutes, and then the lights will go out. If you don't want that to happen, you can come back. I'm going to show you how to get to this in a second. A big red button appears that says stop the override. That basically at 11 o'clock, it flashes twice. You have 2 minutes to come and push this button. Otherwise, the lights are going to go out. It happens again at midnight, and it happens again at 1 a.m. This is in case somebody left the building and left the lights on. It's an energy saving thing. We see this all the time. But the system is smart enough. I was able to program it so that if no lights are on, if this place is totally dark, the lights do not flash twice at 11 and twice at 12 and twice at 1. The system looks at the state and says, oh, the lights are already off, then I don't need to do anything. But if you're in here and it's 11 o'clock and the lights are on, through the architectural system, not through the console, but through the architectural system, they'll flash twice. So if you know you've got an event that's going to run past 11 p.m. or past 12 p.m. or past 1 a.m., make sure this is off, that your architectural system is not being used and you're controlling everything through the console. Otherwise, at 11 o'clock, you're going to have a little light show happening in the middle of your performance.
How do you turn that off? I mean,
Basically,
it's just the off button.
yes, if you go to that, let me bring up.
Because you were saying it turns off all the lights.
Yeah, let me bring up through the console.
The lights still work on the dimmer board.
Yep.
when This is off.
Okay, so now if you hit off there, nothing happens because I've got higher levels now coming from the console. I brought up all the house lights here. So now, if I bring them down from the console, I can turn everything off. This is the example of what I'm talking about. Whoever is sending the highest levels wins. So right now, I can take this out and we lose all the lights. Go back to General 1. I can take that out and all we lose is the stage lights because the architectural system is saying send the higher level. So everybody's kind of clear on this 11, 12, and 1 thing. It's a really cool thing for energy savings, but it can come back to bite you if you don't think about the fact that it's going to happen. So as long as you're here, you have no problem with this. If you've left lights on here, it will save you energy, but it could come back and get you if you're not thinking about what's happening.
Okay. You need to make sure that
Yeah.
I got this. All right, so if the architectural processor is running,
Yep.
it's going to take control always over the top of the control board.
Nope. Whoever is sending the higher level wins.
Define higher level.
Architectural processor says, I want this light at 50%.
Yes.
Control console says, I want this light at 100%. Console wins. Console
Okay.
says, I want this light at 50%. Architectural processor says, I want it at 100%. Architectural processor
Okay.
wins.
So, but if we've got the console, and we're using the console and the lights are at 30%,
Yep.
because we're working in here, if the architectural system is not turned off at 11 o'clock, it's going to mandate and take control. So basically, if we're going to be in here, the main focus is we need to shut the architectural system down.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure. Now I understand that better, yeah.
Yes.
So when we're ready to do our show, we go ahead and take down our architectural system. How does that impact the locks? When we turn the architectural system off, since it was pre-programmed with lock, that's the last thing it remembers?
Nope. The lock-unlock functions has nothing to do with the levels.
Okay.
So I can lock those stations out with the levels on, or I can lock them out with the levels off.
So it just
But turning the
unlocks
system
those-
off and off,
You're not actually turning the system off,
You're turning
and that's
controls.
yeah. You're saying go to an off preset. Turn all my lights off. The system is always active unless you physically go back to the dimmer room and pull the plug on the architectural system. Just unplugging this station or just running off doesn't kill your architectural processor. It just says, oh, I'm the little kid on the block. I'm running all zeros.
So I'm still not understanding why, if you have that turned off and you get to here, I just want to make sure that nobody can push that button and get that on there. So,
Lock the stations.
and you can turn that off.
No.
Well, you're not.
No.
turning it off
You're not.
in a way. look at it like a program. You're pausing the program.
Okay, so when I...
Not even that.
Not even that.
Nope.
Okay, so when you do that, I just want to make, of course, I'm not going to be here until midnight.
No,
but
no.
if I did that,
Sure.
Then that's going to lock the system so it doesn't override it and
No.
blink at me. See,
No.
that's what I'm concerned
No, no, no.
about, being able to do that and
No.
this at the same time.
All this does, locking the stations only prevents the button stations from working. It has nothing to do with turning the system on and off. It has nothing to do with controlling the lights. All it says is stop these button stations from working.
Okay.
So right now, our stations are locked. I can push those buttons all day long, nothing happens. But I can still come here and turn off the lights.
Right.
And those buttons are still locked.
The buttons are still locked.
And now you're running from the,
I can be running from the console, or I'm done for the day. I've left.
Oh, okay.
But I've left the stations locked. But I left and I forgot to unlock the stations. Midnight rolls around, the system goes, oh, stations are still locked. Unlock them so when the cleaning crew comes in tomorrow, they can turn on the lights.
oh, so that will still override?
Yes, yes. Yeah, the locking functions are different than the control functions for the lights. I can see where that can be confusing.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yep.
But if that's turned off, then that 11 o'clock thing doesn't happen?
As long as you are off here,
Okay.
the lights
So that's
will
what
not.
you're saying if you-
Right.
Okay.
If as long as you are off as opposed to locked out. But as long as you are off, then at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 1 o'clock, the lights will not flash.
That makes sense to me. See, if you turn that off right there, you don't have to
So
worry
if you
about
want,
Correct.
if you want the energy to work, you got to make sure before you leave, you don't leave that on off. Well, if you're doing that, you're
if-
turning the lights off.
Bingo, you got it. Yeah. The whole idea of the 11, 12, and 1 o'clock sweep is an energy savings. If you've already turned off the lights, then you don't need it to sweep. The reason they flash is if you are in here and you're not aware that the lights are going to go off, we don't want to just
dark bunch of
put you,
cookies.
yeah, so you've got 2 minutes. What would happen, and I can't get to this page without going into the computer at the moment, but what happens when it goes into this, the page changes and it puts this big red button in the middle of the screen that says, stop this from happening. You push that and the lights will stay where they are until the 12 o'clock or the 1 o'clock, at which time you probably have to push it again. But it stops the lights from going out. That's what the flash is there, is to give you 2 minutes to get to this station to stop you from blacking out. Okay, so left-hand side, we're recalling some presets. On the right-hand side, there's 5 green buttons that say General, Events, Theater, Music, and Zones. This was mandated by the consultant. They gave you guys a tremendous amount of control here and a lot of different ways to say, okay, this belongs to theater, this belongs to music, this belongs to the administration. Those are navigation buttons at this point. If you go to General or go to Events or go to Theater, this is going to change the page on the station. So let's push one of those other buttons. And we are now in Theater Presets. You'll see on that page there are 12 presets labeled Theater 1 through Theater 12, Off, Record Enable, Record Disable, and Home. So I take the simplest one first. If you push Home, we're going to go back to that home page. Theater 1 through Theater 12 are 12 different looks that you can record into this system. The really, really cool thing is this console works with the architectural system. So I can now run up a bunch of lights. Oh, hope if I bring that up. And we've gone through and we spent hours building this beautiful look. We say, okay, this is what I want. If you now, well, we got to do two things here at once. We want to record this into the architectural system. The consultant said, we don't want everybody and his brother to do this. We don't want to do it by accident. So first we have to enable the record function. So if you push the button that says Record Enable, you get a keypad that says, are you authorized to do this? And please think about this, and by the end of tomorrow, let me know if you would like this to change. The consultant has mandated at this point that your unlock code is 63125, which I believe is the zip code here, except for one other page. I'll come back to that. So if you hit now 63125, and then hit enter. There's been a minor change on that page, and now instead of saying record enable, that button says record. If you push the button that says record, the screen lights up and starts flashing. It says, what do you want to record? Press Theater 1. You have now recorded this look from the console into that button. So now if I take out the console again, nothing changed. Now if you hit off here, yep, that fades out. Hit it again, or hit Theater 1, sorry.
Can you control the speed of the fade?
No.
Thank you. It's okay.
Not here. That's what this is for. It's on a 5-second fade right now. There is a way to change that. That involves...
Tomorrow.
No, that's actually the second part of today. One of the things that I requested from the consultant, I don't know if anybody did it, but I have my laptop. If not, you can bring any laptop in and get a little deeper into the programming of this. And that's why I'm saying probably not everybody wants to hang around for that, but those that are interested, I will show how to do that, which would then allow you to change times on your fades. This thing is really, really cool, and we're spending a lot of time with this because it is so powerful, but don't fall in love with this. This is meant for day-to-day, hey, I want to come in, I want to push a button, I want to get some lights to come on. If you want to be playing with times and do really, really cool things, that's what this piece of gear is for. And this is probably, don't quote me, I shouldn't make up prices off the top of my head, but this is probably a $1,500 to $2,000 little piece of gear. This, on the other hand, is about a $10,000 piece of gear. This will do everything you want it to do. This is, come in and I want to run a rehearsal and I want to have about 12 different looks for the rehearsal, and I want to be able to get from one to another, to another, to another without having a bunch of stuff programmed into the console. So this way you can snapshot looks, and the theater department has 12 presets that they can use, and the music department has 12 presets they can use, and there are 12 general presets that everybody can use, and there are 12 more event presets that anybody can use. Up to you what you do with these, but it works exactly the same on every one of these pages. Go to a page, unlock the record button, bring up whatever look you want on the console, and then snapshot the recording. Yes?
You have to unlock for each one that you want to snap.
As long as you are on that page, the button still says record. As long as the button still says record, you can record. That's why next to that, there's a button that says record disable. When you are done recording, so that busy fingers don't come up and play with the system afterwards, lock the record button again. So if you just push that, you'll see one minor change on the screen. Now the button, instead of saying record, now says record enabled again. And the last button on there in the lower right hand corner says home. Press home and we're back to our main navigation page.
And again, those presets are all based on the fact that the lights are aimed in the direction they were when they were recorded.
Yes.
If the light aiming is changed,
Then your look on stage will change.
look is different.
Yep, exactly.
So there's 12 theater presets?
And 12, yeah,
So we've got two theater groups, Oakville and Elville.
okay.
How many does a theater group really need?
We'll run our shows through the other board.
In my opinion, I'm not running anybody down by saying this. You have a tremendous amount of flexibility here. I would normally program one of these and give you a total of maybe 5 to 10 presets total, and just say, yeah, use all of these. The consultant said, in my opinion, you need a page for theater, you need a page for music. It's not to say that he's wrong and I'm right, or vice versa. This was just the way that this was programmed to be set up. So you literally have 48 presets that you can record in here. But because you have this amazing capability to change this on a day-to-day basis, you can re-record them, or you can set them up and leave them, whatever you choose to do. This is...
Different groups are competing for space, competing for buttons, because there's more than enough.
There are more than enough buttons to use. And if it does turn out you are competing, this thing has the capability. There is a 200 gigabyte hard drive in this. A show takes up less than a megabyte of memory storage. You can record thousands. If you ever manage to fill up the memory on this, please call me because I want to come see what kind of shows you're doing here. You could record 20 different looks and call it theater looks and just save that on the hard drive. Then come in tomorrow and re-record. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4. You can put it all in there. The next day, you could change those back and make them 12 other presets. On a day-to-day basis, this could change, or this could stay exactly the same for the next year. It's totally up to how you guys decide to use your facility. But the systems, we almost never wind up selling just the console or just the architectural for a theater. For casinos and places, yeah, they don't need the console, but these interact with each other, and the whole idea was to give you this kind of flexibility, to let the systems talk to each other.
And the flexibility is there electronically.
Yes.
And I don't mean to be beating a dead horse.
No.
Many people do not climb up in the catwalks and understand that these lights literally have wrenches that need to be, the bolts that need to be loosened with wrenches, and
Yep.
they are redirected and re-aimed. So if any one of those are changed, everything that you've recorded in here is
Going to be,
gone.
yeah, the levels are there.
Well,
The look is
What you
different.
expected.
Exactly.
Your lights are
Yep.
used differently.
Yes.
Yeah, our gels, our gobos, or
Yeah,
anything.
your gels, your gobos, and stuff like that.
Yep. Sure.
Well, some of those presets will obviously be for principals, music, general music, you know, the elementary group. Is it a good idea to have maybe a select few of lamps up there or lights aimed and just say, you know, hey, Mark, do not touch these. You know, reserve these for that, or is it just foolish to think that?
Not at all. It is not at all foolish to think that. I told you I taught college. I actually ran the theater for a good-sized college in Dallas for 11 years. That was my full-time job. I taught a couple classes on the side. If you have a full-time person whose responsibility is to do nothing but maintain the lights and the sound and the carpentry and so forth in this space, then you don't need to do that, because that person would know these are the lights that I have to be able to put back for the principal. From day to day, I got a simple speaker, I go up and refocus a couple lights, it's no big deal. If, on the other hand, this is the maintenance crew that has to come in and do refocusing, or it's a major deal to refocus lights, then it might be to your advantage to say, these two lights never get changed, but it's hard when you've only got 35 circuits up there to dedicate 2 of the circuits to something that's only going to be for the principal.
So if you can do that, then this is a fantastic system with incredible, almost limitless possibilities of what you can do. But because of the limit of what you have up here, we could really handcuff ourselves down here.
Yes.
And not use the full capacity that has been invested in here.
Yep. And
So because of the number of lamps and the type of lamps, that could have
You're taking 2 of the things out
There
of
you
that
go.
system.
No, it's great. I'm listening to several conversations at once. This is all coordination among your different users doing the space. And the idea is, theater comes in to do a show, they're probably going to need every fixture they got, and they're going to be wanting more. It's like there's never enough lights, there's never enough to do. They will not want to give up those 2 lights that you have focused for the principal. Great. Let them do what they need to do, but then the principal's coming back in. It's the theater's responsibility to get those lights back where they need to be, or the technical director. It's a coordination administration issue of who puts the lights back to where we have to have them in order for the principal to come in and speak to the students.
And you guys, since it is such a large facility, Steve Habeck and Stephen Lee and I have been talking about it. We're going to have big time rules, and in order to make this work, things have to be returned to the way they are, because you know that Dr. Knost does not hire a technical director immediately at all. So it's going to be, the 3 of us will be coming down on somebody if it doesn't get returned the way it was. Just know that that's coming.
The great thing is, you will find the students will eat this up. They love this. These are toys, and it's stuff that by running things up and down and pushing buttons, lights turn on and off. It's magic. And the kids really get into this. What I'm hoping for the console training tomorrow, not that I don't love having this big group here, but it's pointless to have this many people for console. Ideally, we'd like to have maybe 2 or 3 faculty and a couple of kids. And frankly, the kids will know more about this board in 2 months than all of us in this room combined. They will get in on this and just go to town because they can't hurt anything. All they're doing is turning lights on and off. So they can program for days, and it's like your computer. Save it under a different name, save it under a different name, so you can mess around all day long and still get back to where you were. Let's get the kids involved in this because they will love this.
So tomorrow, we'll be able to touch that.
Oh yes,
Okay.
that's the idea.
I'm going to keep my hands off it now. I just
No,
want to be
that's-
able to touch it tomorrow. And see how
That's the idea, and we've reserved. On the schedule tomorrow, it says 7:30 to 11:30. If we need to spend 12:30 to 5:30, in addition to that, I'm here, kids. I'm here for you. Whatever you want to do with this, I don't fly out of here till Thursday morning, so I got all day tomorrow. We can play with this all day long. But yeah, that's why this is for tomorrow. So are we pretty good on what's happening with the button stations and the LCD? Let me show you one other thing. Let's wake that back up again. Yeah, touch it. There's one last button there that we hadn't touched. It says zones. This also, God, you're recording this so the consultant could kill me. No, it's okay. Go ahead and press zones. And we got something that looks a little different here. Tabs across the top that say third electric B, third electric C, floor, stage right and left. If you come all the way back to the beginning of this, it starts with catwalk right, first electric. There's a fader for each one of the dimmers. You can do everything that I was doing from this control console at the architectural station. The unfortunate thing about that is you have 141 different faders. So we were asked on this to break it up where it says, come on, let's get all the way back to the beginning. House lights A, house lights B, because I can only really get 10 faders on a page. I want to get to first electric circuit number 53. I got to tab until I get to that and then control it with this. It's a really pretty screen and it's really incredible technology, but it's still an LCD touchscreen. No matter what you're doing with your finger and moving that fader up and down, it's not going to be nearly as accurate as what you can do on this console. And setting up looks on this, it's the same as what I did here. I ran all these faders up and down, I set a look, we recorded it. I can take all of this out here. And we're still in Theater Preset 1. We're going to go back and we're going to turn things off for a second. Now, we can come back to the zones. Sorry, I'm doing this instead of having you touch buttons, but you can see I can bring those faders up and down, and we can start programming there. It's a whole lot easier to do things on your console than it is to have to page through and do things here and be fairly inaccurate with what your finger can do. One of the things we'll show you on the console tomorrow, yes, I can bring up faders here, but a little experiment we do, I have somebody actually set faders 1 through 5 to 50%, exactly 50%, which means you're trying to tweak the fader and look at the screen. It takes about 30 to 35 seconds. On the keypad, I can type 1 through 5 at 5, enter in about 3 seconds and get exactly the same result. The keypad is so much more accurate than anything we can do off the LCD screen. So, by the consultant's request, you do have individual faders on this. You can never turn this on, you can do everything from that. And if you do it, I hope you've got a lot of wristbands, because carpal tunnel is going to get into this real hard of trying to come back and forth between the screens. Can you do it? Yes, you can. Do I need to come in and not turn on the console and get up one particular dimmer? Okay, your zones are there. It's in the program, and if you want to use it that way, you can. I'm not telling you not to. I'm telling you this is the simpler way to do that. With the snapshot capability, why go through all the pain and anguish of bringing zones up on the LCD when you can do it on the console? That was the last page on that. Getting out of the zones, there is a button on every one of those pages that says Home. go back home, and that's where it's going to take you. After 10 minutes of no activity on this screen times out and it goes to a clock. And it's an accurate clock, it tells you what time it is. If it's gone back to the clock, touch the screen once, it automatically brings you back to this home page. So, I brought up a bunch of faders. We're not controlling anything from the console now, we're controlling it from here. How do I get the house lights back on?
Channel 1.
Go for it.
Channel 1, go ahead. You go for it. That's it.
And the house lights are back.
Oh, that's right, the lock just does the hall light.
Exactly. Well, the lock, remember, the lock isn't going to change levels at all. All it says is, can I push those buttons? So let's unlock the stations so that...
Oh.
There you go. No, that's fine. We tried to make this as intuitive as possible so that not only does the color change, but the label changes as well, and it tells you what the state is. Yes? We okay with being able to turn the lights on? Yes?
Video room, is that light not controlled at all?
Yes. Oh, is it controlled through this? No. The light in the ceiling there is not part of the dimming system. There's a wall switch in there, as well as your catwalk work lights are not part of this. What I saw today, the control for those is actually up on the catwalk. It's a dimmer switch. So something your kids may get a little exercise when they come back down and forget to turn the lights off. They got to climb back up and turn the lights off again.
Isn't there a three-way over there?
There might be. I haven't.
It's different from down below, but you can kill it.
Okay. Yeah. That may. We didn't do that part of it. It wasn't part of the dimming system. Now, I told you when we were out in the hall, this LCD is really cool because it can plug in 4 different places. Under the desk here, good luck with this on your camera, down on this side, right underneath the counter, there is a station that has 4 plugs in it. DMX, network, and it says Unison. Unison is the name of the architectural system. There's a tail on this thing. And it's a 6-pin plug, so you can't accidentally plug it in anywhere it's not supposed to. And it's actually got a screw collar on it. If you unscrew the collar and pull it out of the wall, you can plug this in here. You can plug it in the projection booth. You can plug it in on stage left. You can plug it in on stage right. So this thing moves. And once again, like the button stations out in the hall, this thing is stupid. All it knows is pretty colors. There's a processor that's listening to this. So when I touch a button here, the processor goes, oh, that button was touched on that station. I'll do the heavy lifting. So there's no memory involved with this. It comes back no matter where you plug it in. It will take it about 45 to 50 seconds to come back. So don't panic when it first plugs in and it comes up with this gray screen that says ETC, Electronic Theater Controls, and the progress bar holds up at 50%. It's checking the system. It takes it a little while to hook back up. So don't figure, oh, I'm going to do a show, I'm going to plug this in, and I'm going to go right away. Give it a couple minutes to sync back up. But this thing can be used anywhere you want to in left, right, booth, and here. This system is actually on what you're used to plugging your computers with. It's just a network cable. And there's a plug for this to be able to plug this in here. Once again, in the projection booth, stage right, stage left. You can take it to the catwalk. Anywhere there's a network plug, you can plug in the console. So you've got a lot of flexibility about where you can have this stuff. Questions on the architectural system? We're going to go backstage and take a look at this, and then for those that want to go to the catwalk, we'll crawl up to the catwalk and take a look at circuits. And then I'll get rid of those people that don't want to be here for the nitty-gritty of the dimming system, and go on from there.
I have a question.
Yes?
Just because I'm crazy. That box is what you consider the architectural system. This would be the console.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I need.
Yep. This is...
So you can take that architectural system anywhere in the building, in here where that plug is, and you can use the architectural
Stage
system.
left, stage right, here, and the control booth.
Okay.
Each place you can plug this in, you could also plug this in. So you can move this as well. And this thing really... is not all that heavy. I'm picking this up with 2 fingers right now. and it's actually pretty rugged. The big thing that we recommend on this, and this you'll probably have to beat into your students, we don't want liquids too close to this. We especially don't want liquids with sugar and caffeine in them, because once you dump a Coke on this, you've created a very expensive doorstop. No matter how well it's cleaned, the acid in the Coke will continue to eat through the circuit board, and it's dead. You spill a cup of coffee or a cup of water on it, once it dries out, it's pretty much okay. Coke, I mean, my recommendation would be
No fluids.
no fluids. Keep them away from this console.
Why would you ever want to move that little box?
This one, if I would rather be controlling things from there. And there are places that will do this. This is an old union thing, theatrical union thing more than anything. It protected jobs. They would run all their theatrical lights through the console, and they would run all their house lights through the architectural system, which guaranteed they had to have 2 operators for the show. So this is kind of a hangover from that, but it's possible to put both of these up there, be able to run your house lights, or you're running the house lights until it's time for the show. I got to be able to turn it off. So I put everything there, or I put everything on stage right, I put everything on stage left, depending on where you want to run the show from.
Or you're a single choir teacher or what have you, and you're up there with your students and you want to be able to turn lights.
Yes. Now, you don't have to take this. This is where we're going next, because there's one of these built into the wall on the stage. It's not portable, it's permanent. But whatever we do here, so I'm going to leave this in, yeah, we'll leave it in General 1, because you're going to see when we get up on the stage, General 1 is lit up there. All of these buttons all track to each other. So I can change that out there. If I turn that off out there, it's going to go to off here.
Wouldn't you think that maybe there ought to be something that we need kind of rules on as well, of when you can touch that and take it somewhere else, and not just to be able to get underneath there, because I can just see somebody going underneath and plugging it, unplugging it, and breaking it.
Sure.
So I don't know. Just thinking that maybe might be something.
Let's just go with the training first and then worry about
Yeah.
the powers that be making those decisions, I would imagine.
So if you want to see it, we could all troop into the booth, but literally, it's a little 2-gang station underneath the desk, and it's in black. You'll see one up on the stage. It all says ETC on it, and it's pretty much, this is where the lighting plugs in. There's not a whole lot of doubt. If you see a network plug that says ETC lighting, you're not getting to the internet. All you're getting is to the light, because this is all on a closed network in this room. You can't get out to the internet by plugging in here, even though the cable looks just like the one on your computer. Okay, to the stage.
That's the lights we're used to using.
Yeah.
Getting that lights off, I was going to see
Oh, now.
Oh, yeah.
You can't hurt anything. I mean, we're not birthing babies here. We're just turning the lights on and off.
Just out of curiosity, with this touch screen, can you use the, like a stylus? If
No.
somebody, oh, this all has to be.
It's all heat like an iPhone.
Yep. Yes. It's doing both. It's the touch and the heat sensitivity. You know.
Look, you can.
You can.
Liar, liar.
It was just
Yeah,
use
well.
a pen, or is that a stylus?
That's a pen.
Cool.
Okay. So there's no heat involved. It's just the touch.
So it's a grid.
Yep. So this is exactly what you saw out there. It just isn't portable. It's here.
Can I do theater? One?
Sure. Yep.
Theater. One?
Exactly.
Oh, but it didn't turn color. Oh. Everything was supposed to change color.
Press it a little harder.
Change the first time, just didn't change.
Yeah, it wasn't finished. So yeah, what you recorded out there.
General one?
I tried to do real quick.
Sure. And each one of these, this function for.
Is it set by anything? Let's see.
Yes.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. There's some default things that.
First one probably.
No, there's some default looks. Most of them would be 100 on the first preset, 75 on the second preset.
You get the work lights out. So it looks like.
It's 175, 50, 25.
House is dimming now.
Yeah.
So basically, you would just come in here and just play with it, see if you liked what you saw. And this is not like, there it goes. You know, just go home. General one. There I go.
So this is doing the same thing as that architectural concept?
Exactly. Yep.
And does it one override the other? or
Nope.
they just the
Nope.
same?
They mimic each other.
Okay,
So.
so if I came in here and used that thing and somebody wanted to change something up there, they could do both?
Yep. So the terminology for the day, between the console and the touchscreen, we're working on what's known as HTP, highest takes precedence. What we're doing between the two touchscreens is known as LTP, last or latest takes precedence. So if I press General 1 here, now I run out to the front of the house and I press Theater 1, I'll be in Theater 1 until I press General 2 over here. Whoever hits it last wins. So you got this. Then down below this, see how well we can see this. DMX output, ETC net, that's the thing that looks like what you're used to plugging in your computer in a regular RJ45 jack, and the one that says Unison. Funky little 6-pin plug with a screw collar on it. So this is a little redundant, but you could plug in your portable right here and have this right here. Gives two people the opportunity to fight with each other. You could plug in the console. This one that says DMX output. I hesitate to go there, but we've got to talk about this. Does anybody here know what DMX is? Okay, cool. Slightly older technology, but this is what basically all your moving lights, controls, or dimmers originally worked on and are still pretty much working on. DMX stands for digital multiplexing. It's a hard line, it's an RS-485, radio standard 485 signal that uses bidirectional communication for a console to talk to dimmers, or a console to talk to a moving light, or a console to talk to a color changer. It's a little bit limited because we can only do 512 channels, which sounds like an awful lot, but in today's world of LED and moving lights where you're eating up an address per attribute for focus and for color and for patterns that are put in, 512 isn't nearly that much. But we still can do what's known as hardline DMX. The console will spit out the DMX and be able to talk directly from this to a dimmer, or to a moving light, or to a fogger, or to a color scroller. That's the old-fashioned way, it's the hard way to do it. That's the cool thing about having things on the network. If the console is plugged into the network and we're no longer limited to just one universe or 512 channels, we can now do 512 universes of 512 channels each. So we have the capability of controlling hundreds of thousands of different control signals out to LED fixtures, moving lights, foggers, color changers, all through the network. This limits you to just 512 channels. Once again, this was something your consultant specified to give you a little bit of backward compatibility or additional flexibility that you may never use this. The difference you see in this particular plug-in and the one that's under the console out front, the one out front has Unison Network, DMX in, and DMX 2 in. DMX in goes just to the dimmer cabinet. DMX 2 in comes to this. So this is a direct hardline communication between the front of house and here. You will more than likely never use this unless somebody brings in a road show and brings in their own console that isn't capable of talking on the ETC network. I can't see that happening, but it's here just in case. This is not really a discussion we need to have with the whole group. Those that are interested, when we winnow down to a smaller group, I'll be happy to go into a little more detail. But you probably won't need this DMX out. The network, this allows you to go both in and out. I could plug in the control console right here and control the lights. Or you're going to see some devices in a minute that allow you to translate from network back to DMX. Because the moving lights, the color scrollers, the foggers do not speak network. They still speak DMX. So the console puts out a signal on the network. We come out of this plug into a little device known as a gateway. You got one built into the wall here. You've also got some portables. In the bottom of the gateway are some DMX plugs that allow you to plug into the gateway and then plug into your moving light or your fogger or your dimmers. So the console says network, 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 and this says, okay, you want me to come out on DMX and talk to a fixture here. So this was very cool. This was very well thought out to build in a gateway here and one on the other side, but then you still have 4 more portable ones that you can plug in wherever you got the network tap, because these are on the network. Console's talking to these, they're spitting out DMX. 2 plugs underneath here, which literally gives you 1,024 addresses from each one of these devices. So with 1 here, 1 there, 3 portables, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and a 4-port portable, 14 times 512. You got a lot of addresses that you can deal with here. But that's what this device is, and part of the smaller group is how to reprogram this. Not nearly as intimidating as it sounds, but how to make this spit out the data you want. So you've got this and this here, an exact duplicate on the other side of the stage. You don't have one of these on the other side of the stage, but you do have the capability of plugging in your portable on the other side of the stage. So up to you guys. For a music event, maybe you don't want anybody out front of house. You want everything controlled from right here. You can bring the console back here, or you can do everything from your Unison control system. Lots and lots of flexibility. Before we try and make a sojourn up to the catwalks, let's step out on the center of the stage to give you a little bit of your idea of what it is you're dealing with here. You can see the big black strips that are above the lights on the catwalk. From this side, they don't look all that impressive. On the other side, they've got the numbers. There are plugs hanging out the bottom of each one of those distribution strips that allow you to plug in fixtures. There are 5 circuits over on, right now, stage right, but house left. 5 circuits on house right, and I believe it's about 26 circuits that are in the center. You go up to, I think the last circuit up here is 31. So you've really got 31 circuits out here front of house, and each one of those is capable of controlling 20 amps. Those lights, I didn't bother to look whether those were 575 watt or 750 watt. If they're 750 watt lights, you could actually plug 3 lights into each one of those plugs. If they're 575s, you could plug 4 lights into each one of those plugs. Right now, you have enough circuits and enough lights up there, you can have each light on its own individual circuit. If you do what's called a twofer and plug 1 cord that splits into 2 to allow you to plug 2 lights into the circuit, or take that twofer and plug in other twofers so you could plug 4 lights into a circuit. You can have 4 lights, but you get all 4 of them at the same time. By plugging each light into a different circuit, you have individual control over every light that you have front of house. So you got, I believe it's 31 circuits front of house. Then you start with circuit 32 here on your first electric and go up to circuit 50 something, I believe. I've got these numbers actually written down, but you got another, say 25 circuits here, another 25 circuits on the second electric, another 25 circuits on the third electric, and then you get down to floor boxes, which have another 3 circuits, stage left, 3 stage right, and some floor boxes that are in the floor upstage that would allow, for those of you that have been to dance shows, you've got this nice big white piece of fabric in the back known as a cyclorama. You'll light with color from the top and color from the bottom. So you can plug in, I think your last circuit is 117. So you got 117 different circuits throughout the facility that are all on dimmers. You could see, yeah, it's easy, I guess, to see it in one of these floor boxes. No, I'll tell you what, I'm going to fly in electric. You'll be able to see this a little better. So keep this center area clear. I'm going to fly in this electric so you can take a look at this. Okay, from where I am to the other side of the stage, clear either upstage or downstage. Heads up, second electric is coming in. Okay, so every one of these, if you step to the upstage side of this, you'll see.
Can we not do that? We're supposed to go around, or can we go under?
You can go under. It's locked off.
Oh, darn.
So here's circuit 64. If you look closely at these, you will see you cannot plug in a normal household appliance into these. These are a 2-pin and ground stage plug. They will only plug in one way, so if I try and plug it in upside down, it will not fit. They pretty much lock into each other. Every one of these that has a 2-pin and ground plug is a dimming circuit. You can change the level on them. But you notice, I got another one here that's labeled 124. And I believe that one says 123. 123 here. These are relay circuits. They do not dim, they only turn on and off. Why do I need these on distribution? A lot of moving lights don't like to have dimmed power. They're taking all of their control signal for how they pan, tilt, focus, change color from the network. But their power has to come from somewhere to be able to power up the lamp or power up the fixtures. They don't want to be dimmed. We put those on a circuit that only turns on and off. So anything that's marked or that has a regular household or Edison style plug on it does not dim. You still have control of it from the console. So if I bring it to 1%, it goes up full. I bring it to 50%, it's at full. I take it out, it goes out. It doesn't go by time. It's either on or it's off. You will see your circuits labeled on here, your relay circuits, and then just like we had in the wall, there's another network plug. There's one on either end. The only thing that I'm missing from this system that's arriving today, each one of these gets a little label on it that tells you where it's plugged into the network switch and how long an extension cable. For those that are into this kind of thing, you can't run a piece of network cable longer than 328.4 feet. So we've done a calculation on this that says the wiring in the wall is X number of feet. From here back to the switch, there's a little tag that says it's plugged into this port on the switch, and by the way, you can't put longer than 150-foot extension cord on this. Because of the topology of this building, The shortest length of long extension you could put is at least 150 feet. You can go 150, on some of these you can go 200, on a couple of them you can go 250 feet. Once again, if you've got to run this more than 250 feet, you're in the wrong plug. You've got one here, you got one on the other end. There's two on each electric. There's the ones on the floor. I'd be amazed if you ever needed more than a 25-foot cable. So there is no danger, but there will be a little sticker on here that says, here's how long you can go with your extension cable. So why do I need this? Once again, I don't want to put moving lights, or I don't want to invest in moving lights, but I want a color changer, because I can drop something into this that allows me to scroll from one color to another. That gets its control. Console talks to the network. Network comes out here and talks to a portable gateway, just like the one that's built into the wall. The gateway spits out the DMX that plugs into the color scroller. So you got network taps to be able to plug in your gateways to control your intelligent, with quotes, intelligent fixtures. The fixtures are not all that intelligent, it's the operators. So, the rigging guys I know are supposed to do a training with you, I believe on the 17th. They'll explain the whole bit about how you counterweight and how you operate this safely. Like I said, I did this for a long time teaching college. You can't hurt anything with the lighting. All you can really do is turn lights on and off. This is deceptively simple. It looks real easy. This is the most dangerous part of your theater. If you operate this without knowing what you're doing, you can kill somebody. So pay real attention to the rigging guys when they're going over the way to safely operate this stuff. Questions on this before I get rid of it again? Do the numbers make sense? Why we have some that dim, why some are relay, and the fact that we can touch the network here? Okay. I'm going to fly this back out, so please stand clear of the electric. Heads up, second electric going out. Okay, one last room and thing to show the large group, and then we can winnow down to those people that are interested in the computer portion and the care and feeding of the system. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have shown you this on our way out. Just like the buttons you have up in the front, but this one's got 5 buttons. It's been programmed at the moment where the top button controls only those 2 circuits of fluorescence that are overhead on the stage. It says preset 1, that's just the way the station comes labeled. So it's programmed right now, you can turn those on and off separately. So the next button under it that says preset 2 is actually general 1. The one under that is general 2, the one under that is general 3, and the bottom one is off. So if I go to off, that took about 5 seconds. Everything else fades down, but remember, these are on a relay rather than a dimmer, so they don't pay attention to time. 1% they click on, so over 5 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then those will go out while the other ones are dimming down. So if you want this changed, a couple people would need to meet and think about this before tomorrow, before I get out of here, because I can reprogram this, but this made the most sense to me. You want to be able from the stage to get those work lights on and off, but still be able to control the lights in the house from this station. So if you want that to do something different, think about it overnight, let me know tomorrow, and we'll fix it. So around the corner here is the dimmer room. Yes, thank you. Okay, thanks, Jeff.
What are you going to show us here, Dave? This stuff?
Dimmers, and control cabinet. presents. Stuff just came in the mail, stuff I was just talking about on the stage. This is the little label that's going to go on each one of the ports saying, here's how long an extension you can plug into me. So I'll get those installed before tomorrow, and that's the last thing that I was waiting on. So, maintenance people will be particularly interested in this room. Your theater technical people will be interested in this room. This is the heart of where your system is coming from. So we have 2 sensor racks. Sensors are brand name for our dimming system. We're on basically what you can think of as Rev 3 or the 3rd generation. Originally came out in 1992. The structure of the cabinets has not changed at all since that time. The dimmer modules themselves haven't really changed. It's just been upgrades to the processors. As we've come into the world of networking, we've gotten more and more sophisticated with how the processors work. But these things, the dimmers themselves, have proven to be just about as rock solid as you can make. There are systems that went in 92 that have had absolutely no maintenance and are still working just great. System in the college that I was at that we retrofitted in 1998, in that period of time has had 1 dimmer fail for a circuit that was being run. It was a house light circuit that was being run almost 24 hours a day and was pulling 21 rather than 20 amps. So a wire eventually parted in one of the dimmer modules. The really cool thing about that, maintenance, you're going to love this. I talked about how the stations were stupid. They're listening to a processor. The dimmers here are also stupid. They are listening to a processor in the center of the rack. The dimmers don't care where they are as long as it's the same type of dimmer. So you'll see every dimmer in this rack is known as a D20E. Stands for dimmer 20 amp enhanced. These are enhanced modules. They're a little more rock solid than the D20s, but just so you know, what we're really looking at is the difference between, in this rack, a D20E, and you've got a couple of D20 FBs. They're a fluorescent module rather than an incandescent module. So as long as you don't swap one for the other, nobody cares. I'm sorry, I'll get back to that one. Nobody cares where they actually live. Technically, I'm violating one little piece of code. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this right. This is the disconnect that turns off the whole system, or at least this rack. I've now killed power to this. This is circuits 1 through 96. They're all stage light circuits. Your house light and the last few stage circuits are coming out of this second rack. So by doing that, I didn't put anybody in the dark out there, but I've killed power to this. By code, this is what you should do. You should not pull one of these out under power. Have we done it? Do we do it? Yes, all the time. As long as you turn the breakers off, you can now remove one of those dimmer modules. Gee, how many tools did I have to do that? This can now be serviced, if it ever needs service. There are 2 breakers on here, just like the circuit breakers in your house. Each one of them is good for 20 amps, and there's a little label on here telling you which circuits have been pulled out. From a maintenance standpoint, this was a huge stride forward, because older dimming systems, you used to have to literally get in with nut drivers and wrenches and screwdrivers and disconnect a whole bunch of stuff. This is all modular. So if something does go wrong, I can swap a bad module for a good module. Notice I'm not being real gentle with these. It's highly unlikely that you would be using every circuit in this dimmer rack for your show. So if it does turn out that something went wrong, until you can get repairs made, you can swap modules around and take unused circuits and put them here. On a day-to-day basis, you don't have to do this at all. If this room gets entirely filthy, so no one's paid any attention to this for 5 years, which I highly doubt, you can pull these modules out one at a time. I do recommend killing the power and then turn the breakers off. You can take them outside. You can blow these out at 80 psi if you want. You're not going to hurt these things by trying to put too much air pressure. clean the dust out. The two enemies of the dimmer modules are dust and heat. Keep this room cool, which is why it has its own air conditioner. Keep this room clean. Your dimming system will function for 20 or more years, basically without having any problems. If you do have a problem with these, this is a circuit breaker, not a real big deal. It's a couple of screws and a stab lock connector. The coils don't usually go bad, but the one I talked about that was overloaded for 15 years, yeah, a wire parted right there. You can get a new coil and it's a stab lock connector. The guts of the dimmer itself are right here, a silicone control rectifier. If these go bad, they usually fail on rather than off, which would mean you can't turn a circuit off without turning the breaker off. If you have to replace one of these, it's a single screw and two stab lock connectors. It takes 5 minutes or less to do. And the reason I'm bringing this up, the module itself is probably $350, $400 for the module. That part is about $90. So do I want to replace the whole dimmer module, or do I want to order in a part that I can get overnighted and replace one screw and two stab lock connectors? That's the maintenance of these things. You keep them clean, you can blow them out with a compressor, but if you set up a regular maintenance schedule on this room, by running a vacuum cleaner over the front of this, or just dusting those off, that's what these filters on the front are for. Very much like in your home for your air conditioning system. Lift up, pop it out. This could use a little cleaning right now. They can be vacuumed, they can be blown out with an air compressor. You can wash them in the sink. Just make sure they're dry when you put them back in. There is a little marking that says airflow, and the arrows are pointing both ways. I've heard arguments both ways. I don't think it makes a bit of difference which way you put this in. They ship with the rough side as opposed to the smooth side out, but it's going to catch dust either way you put it in. So it slides out, drops back into place. You got another one on the bottom. Same thing here. This should be cleaned at this point. Yeah. Well, this is really for a construction site. This isn't bad at all. I've seen these things so chocked with sheetrock dust. You can see somebody needs to do a little cleaning on this. But this wouldn't damage your system. I would say, though, for the first couple of months that this is up and running, keep an eye on this. And maybe we do this once a month, maybe we do it a couple times. But if this room is kept clean, you can probably get away with once a year cleaning your filters. If you keep the filters clean, and I talked about airflow, the filters keep the dust from getting into the racks, so they keep from getting dirty, but they also allow the air to flow into this. There's a big fan on the top that's sucking air in from the front and blowing it out the top. So from a storage standpoint, these are nice flat surfaces that should not have anything stored on top of them. Certainly we don't store cans of Coke on top of them, or popsicles, or things that will drip down into the dimmer rack, because then you're going to have a $25,000 to $30,000 doorstop. I would say 99% of the time, no, unless you have the one or two really sharp, the guys that are really, really into this. Because what I'm about to show you, and this is where I'm going to say, some of you are about to go away, because I'm going to get into a little bit more of what you can do from this module. And this is not the concern really of everybody in this room. This would be more the theater tech people and the maintenance people. But I wanted to show you before I get into that, as long as you keep the airflow on these clean and keep the dimmer modules clean, years of basically trouble-free service. As long as you got a blue light here and no flashing, you have no problem with the system. If the blue light is flashing, this is what we're going to get into in a second, there's some diagnostics on here that will tell you what's wrong. One other thing before I get rid of, or let people go, I'm sorry, I don't want to get rid of anybody. This device is part of your emergency lighting transfer system. There are only 2 circuits involved with this, and this literally, there's really no maintenance to do on this. If this loses normal power, it will flip over into an emergency mode because it's sensing normal power. You've got battery inverters here that sense the loss of normal power. It powers 2 circuits out in the house so that you are never in the black where the audience can't get out the door in case of an emergency. We can test it Out there, you wouldn't have seen anything happen. The two lights, the two circuits that were on stayed on, but they're now being fed off of the battery power. When I flip this back, it takes 30 to 45 seconds before that goes back to normal mode, because the idea is, oh, I lost power, I've got to give the processor time to spin back up before it will send signals back out to the fixtures again. There's no real maintenance to do on this. Come on, I'm vamping for this to finish turning back to normal mode. And
While we're waiting for it to do its gyration. So
there we go.
The cooling fans on the top of those, are those linked to the processors inside those boxes? And do they do diagnostics to make sure that those fans
Yes.
are running at peak efficiency?
Yes, yes.
So if we have a bearing that goes out in one of those, processors will let us know.
Yep. The processors on these are really, really smart. The rest of the rack is really, really stupid. Yeah, the processor knows exactly what's going on. And most of that is temperature related, because if the fan goes out, these things start getting real hot real quick. And whether it's politically correct or not, the developers figured if this thing is worth, say, ballpark $25,000, if it's getting too hot, the best option is for it to shut itself down before it burns itself up. So pretty much the processor will start warning you, I'm too hot, I'm having problems. You'll start seeing that in the house because your lights will come down and go up and come down and go up, at which point you should come back and find out why the light's flashing in here. But before it will get to a point where it will actually allow itself to be damaged, it says, nope, I'm too hot, I'm shutting down until somebody does something about this.
So now that's an independent system, that it can't be set up to an auto warning system that could send somebody an email or a...
No, not at this point.
If there's a hiccup and this kicks into battery mode, is it smart enough to say, oh, I just hiccup and it'll kick back?
Yes, yeah, because this is all what's happening in here. It's sensing normal power on this point. If it loses normal power, it flips to the battery. If normal power,
keep checking, oh, the battery trip.
as soon as the normal power comes back, 45 seconds later, it flips back. For the maintenance people, though, this is the one thing that might be an issue. The way this feeds, it goes dimmers to emergency backup system out to the circuits. So if I got a circuit that's not on, and I'm sending signal from the console, I'm sending signal from architectural, the dimmer module says the circuit's on, the breaker's on, but I still got no lights. There's one last point to check on those two circuits only. There's a fuse right here. This is the last thing that goes out. So if I got two circuits of house lights that won't come back on, check the fuse. There's some spare fuses right here. That's the only real maintenance on this. This has no cooling, no cleaning. It's pretty much set it, forget it.
How often do you lose a fuse?
When somebody shorts out a circuit. And it's not something the fuse fails, it's something that somebody broke a lamp or stuck something into the circuit or cut a wire, that would cause the fuse to blow. Other than that, they're not going to fail on you. Last thing then we can winnow down, just so you see where this is. I kept talking about the network, the network, the network. Here's the heart of the network. A 24-port switch going out to all of your individual plugs, which are what's labeled on the new set of labels that I just got in. And this is the architectural processor that I kept talking about. The station's talking to the processor. This is the processor. It lives back here. This is another gateway that is actually doing nothing. It's kind of a spare. It's a 4-port instead of the 2-port like what was in the wall, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And a battery backup for the UPS. So this is your system. For those that are interested, why don't we take, say, about a 5 to 10 minute break, so if anybody needs to go to the restroom, or if anybody else has the filthy habit that I do, I'm going to go out and smoke a cigarette. And we'll come back in, and I want to talk about how you can do some programming with this, and then I've got a laptop if nobody else brought one, so I can show you the really high level of how you can log into your system and do some stuff on the laptop. I know we were only scheduled till 2. I'll go as late as you guys want to go. Thank you for those of you that are leaving. Thank you for your attention. So This is your architectural processor. This is the heart of what's happening from all the button stations and the LCDs. And there's a book that comes with this. I want to show you what's possible in this. Don't worry whether you remember it or not. One of the great things about ETC, from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, there are 10 people whose sole purpose in life is to help you at 800-688-4116. That number's all over the place. Our phone support people, yeah, I'll make sure that you have all that documented.
Right across that panel.
But literally from 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, those 10 people will help you with any problems you have in your system after 5 p.m., 366 days a year in a leap year, 24-hour service. If you call the 800 number, it'll put you to a recording which forwards you into a message for the phone support people. Within 15 minutes, they will return your call. If they don't, within 15 minutes, somebody's looking for a job. And technically, I'm not supposed to get them, but people have my number. Saturday night at midnight, I got a call from Bossier City, Louisiana at the Margaritaville Casino because they had an issue. They needed to change a level on their lighting. I explained to them that that probably could have waited till tomorrow morning, but I still help them. We're very proud of our service. So if you need help on this stuff, that's what phone support's there for. Now what we do request on that is, if you're calling in the middle of the night, it probably should be a lighting emergency rather than, I can't remember how to record a preset. That could probably wait till the next day. That's what I tried to explain to the guys at Margaritaville. I would have been much more happy to help you at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning rather than midnight, but regardless. Architectural processor. You don't have to open this up, but this top portion is actually providing power to the stations. The bottom portion is the processor. You can see we got an SD card, we have a network jack, and we have a USB port. So if we have to send you changes to your program because you want changes done or something isn't working right, we can email you those changes. You put them on either an SD card or a USB stick. You can stick them into here and we can re-upload a new program or changes to your program. This is just so we've got an additional place where you can plug in a computer. If you can plug in down here, you can plug in just as easily here. Another reason for us to be on a closed network, because we really can send you any information you need. On this is much like an iPad. There's a little jog wheel that can rotate around or be pressed up and down to move through a menu structure. When I touch it, the screen lights up and it tells me architectural control status, processor 1, system OK. This is what we would hope to see. And the IP address is listed right here. Why do I need this? The last thing I'm going to show you, I'll get out my laptop and show you how you can plug into our network and log directly into this processor. You go to Internet Explorer and type in 10.101.10.101. It opens up a program that allows you to control this over the network and to make some simple programming changes. If you're getting into the hardcore programming changes, that's why we have these. I have a separate program on my computer called Light Designer. I built from a blank slate this site. Here's how many dimmers, here's the stations, here's the type of stations, where they are. We do sell that program, but we also sell 16 hours of training along with it, and unless you're using it on a daily basis, it's pointless. It's pretty much 6 months from now or a year from now, you want some changes to your system, we are happy to provide those. We do a little programming, we send you a file, click, you're updated, you're done. But there is a menu structure with this, so if you press the check mark, which is enter, it takes you to a menu, which you can scroll up and down by using the jog wheel. So I'm moving the black bar up and down. When I get to where I want to be, I'm in the about portion of this. I hit enter, and I can now say about different things. And I'm not going to hit every one of these. This is pretty much, you can read it, you can see it in the book, and you don't need it on a day-to-day basis. But this is all, I'm not making any programming changes here. This is diagnostics or tell me some information. If I don't want to be in that menu, I can back up one level by using the left arrow, and now I'm back to the main menu. About, architectural setup. Come down one. information about the connections to the individual stations, because each one of those button stations has its own ID. Each one of the portable or LCD stations has an ID that is visible here, and we're seeing 5 of 5 connected. I could disconnect, or I can, by coming down disconnect, I can say which station. ROHR, shorthand for rear of house right. ROH left, rear of house left. Those are your 2 stations out in the vestibules. SR 5 button. That should be SL. I need to change that. Stage left 5 button. Stage right LCD. That also should change. And the portable LCD. All of this shows up. Your stations are connected on here. You can assign the processor IB. You can change the date, time, or location. If your system is losing time, it shouldn't be, but if you come in several months from now and find it's 2 or 3 minutes off and you want to reset the time in the system, come here into the architectural setup, scroll down to date, time, location, enter, change settings. You can scroll through this. This is all pretty self-explanatory. You can move to the date, time, style. Let's go back to the date, enter. I could change the date here. Like I said, I don't want to go through every setting of every button. If you can read, you can pretty much get through this. And if you're not sure what it is you want to do, get a cell phone, come in here, 800-688-4116. Phone support, help me please. Because they do have every piece of gear we make. They're on a headset with you and they're duplicating the button pushes you're making. So they see the same things you're happening, or they'll ask you pointed questions. What does your screen say now? Okay, go here, push this button. What does it say now? So you got the architectural setup. This is the one that's a little more interesting, architectural control. If I hit this, now I can look at presets, control channels. You don't really have many groups, you don't have any walls or sequences in this building. You do have some macros, you have no overrides, but if I come here to presets and hit the check mark, select the space, all or theater, it's going to give you the same information because we only got one space here. We now see a list. I've hit enter again. I got event 1, event 2, event 3, event 4, event 5. Event 1, oh, somebody's actually out there pushing buttons, which is pretty cool. Event 1 just went from activated to deactivated. It gives you the status. If I want to change something, I can select this and say event 1, activate. I've now done the same thing as pushing the button out front. Or come back in and I can deactivate event 1. And I shouldn't leave them that way. Let me go back to general 1. This is all alphabetical here, so as I scroll down I get back to general 1. Enter, activate, because I didn't want to turn off the work lights on the stage. So the question, Jan, right? Jan questioned, can I change the fade times on my touch screen? There are no buttons that allow you to do that, but if you come to this processor, so I want to get from the top into this. System OK, enter. Architectural control, enter. Presets, enter. All, enter. Which preset? So I want event 1, enter. The very last thing here, fade time. Scroll down to that, enter. You can now change from the keypad or with the jog wheel, you can change the timing. So I said 5 seconds before, it's actually, everything's defaulting to 4 seconds at the moment. If you don't like those times, you can come back here. If wholesale, you decide 4 seconds doesn't work for us, we would like all of our presets to be 5 seconds, call me. I will make that program change and send it to you, rather than making you come in here for all 48 presets and scroll into them and change the time. That's a very simple change on my computer. It's a big pain in the butt to do it from here.
Okay, so in relation, since this is a program, this is design the system. So if, for instance, we came in and we made modifications to the program. I realize that you have the original template.
Yep.
How do we back up this data to make sure in case this processor dies, that we still have any modifications that we made to
there you go.
Or get the changes we made to you so that if we call and we need major changes, we're still working off of our base.
Yep. Boy, I love people that are thinking. So we have architectural. We have architectural control. I come down to the next one to file operations. Enter. I can save the architectural configuration. I can load the architectural configuration. I can restore defaults. Please don't restore. I can update the firmware. Usually you guys wouldn't be doing that. That would be if we had a major change we wanted to update the firmware, but we can. I can save the LCD files, or I can save the log files. This happens a lot on really complicated, bigger systems. We're having issues with the system and we can't figure out why. You can save the log files off to an SD or USB and email them to our R&D department, who then goes in and reads a bunch of code on these that I don't understand and finds out why you have problems with your system. So you've made changes by using the keypad here. You want to make sure you have those changes saved and back up. Either SD or USB, save architectural config, enter, and it'll save. You don't have a whole lot of options here. You can save it as Paradigm 1, Paradigm 2, Paradigm 3. Paradigm's the name of the actual program. And you can either save it to a USB key or an SD card, at which point you can back it up on your computer, you can send it to me, you can send it to the factory. We would be more than happy to have you send that to us.
So what is the LED log?
Oh no, save LCD files. Those would be your touch screens, your LCD touch screens. Okay. If you want to make sure you've got a backup copy of the format of where the buttons are, the colors and all of that, that's saving your LCD files. Okay. I have all that information right now. The factory will have a copy of it.
We have a copy of it on...
I can give you a copy on a USB, on a USB stick or something. Sure.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
not a problem. There also is, in the back of this, you talk about if the processor dies. There is a flash drive. Doesn't hurt anything. Let me make sure they've got lights up there. Excuse me for just 1 second. Go into here. I just turned, I'll show you how to do this in a minute. I just turned on all the lights in here because I'm going to kill this for a second. This doesn't hurt anything. This is designed where you can do this. I can pull the processor out. In the back of the processor is everything. The whole program in this compact flash card. If this dies, you pull this out, we send you a loaner or an updated processor for this. You take this, you stick it into the one we send you, and everything that was in this is now in your loaner, your backup. So it's not even a question of having to save any files or pull them off a computer. This is up-to-date information. This is constantly updating.
So that's the hard drive there.
It's the backup hard drive. There's actually a hard drive inside this. This is kind of like having a backup for your hard drive. In case the processor crashes, this has been a constantly updated USB sticks, file backup. It's there. And it doesn't hurt anything on this to pull this hot. And one of the things they did that was really pretty cool on this, we don't do this on every system, it's an option that you guys purchased. Right here at the bottom is a little module that says backup rack power. So if there's a problem with the power, this is kind of like its own UPS that keeps supplying power to the processor, even beyond the UPS that you have here. If you guys have any power problems here, I'm going to be really amazed. You've got so many suspenders and belts to keep this thing powered up. You notice it says booting here. It takes it 30 to 45 seconds to boot back up, loads the file, and comes back up and then says system OK. Takes a few seconds for the button stations to come back online, and then we're good. So the things to know about that are SD card, USB. I want to be able to save files, load files in. It's really pretty self-explanatory from the menu system, as long as you can push a button and follow directions. The thing I'll reinforce over and over again, if you're doing this and you're not sure what you're doing, come in here with your cell phone, 800-688-4116, phone support. They will walk you through any of this stuff. And somebody will have one of these in front of them pushing the same buttons that you are. Which is why calling me at midnight isn't always the best thing, because I don't have one of these in front of me, but I can talk you through, what does your screen say now? Okay, do this. What does your screen say now? They will help you through any of this. This is the general basic care and feeding on the architectural processor. The IP is up there, so I can show you how you can log in, because anything you can do here, you can actually do plugging into any one of our network jacks on your closed network. You can get in and make the same kind of changes without having to come back here.
Plug in the console on the laptop.
Console, stage right, stage left, fly in one of your electrics. As long as it says ETC lighting on the network tab, you can plug into it and then type in Internet Explorer 10.101. And we are, as I was explaining when we were on break, we're on a Class B subnet. So we're using 255.255 as our subnet mask. 10.101 is our closed network. The third octet we use to identify the piece of gear. So this one's 10.101.10, tells me it's an architectural processor. This one's 10.101.101. The last octet, this is .101, this is .102. We use the last octet to say which one of these types of products. So this is a .10.101, .101, .101, .102. The console's .90.101. The gateways are .50, .101, 102, 103, 104. So yeah, you can log in just by typing in the IP address, because the program actually lives in the processor. It's not on your computer. It's not anything you have to download. When you type in that IP, it takes you into a menu that lets you make changes to this. If you're on the phone with phone support and they're saying, we need to reset the system, it takes a real sophisticated, high-dollar piece of gear to do this, which I lost. I left out at a table somewhere. Oh, no, I didn't. That's the reset button. Not where you can get at it easily, but if you got an ink pen, you can reboot your system. We haven't had that many problems with it, but it's pretty much kind of like your computer. If you really got something jammed up, sometimes Control-Alt-Delete or a hard reset will solve the problem. That's why that button is there. But pretty much, this should be set it and forget it unless you're having some kind of problems, and then it will, instead of saying system OK, it'll say errors, and you can come to this menu and view clear errors. Right now we have no errors, so we're not seeing any problems there. Questions on the architectural control processor?
How much more are we doing? I just got all of my kids in. Are you?
Another 15 minutes probably in here, and then maybe 15 minutes on computer.
I'm going to run the rest of it.
I'm here for
You better be more than
Network switch is a network switch. You will find, okay, these don't actually tell you which port they go to. I'll do you a spreadsheet on this. If somebody will give me an email address, I'll do you a spreadsheet telling you which port's going where. And the first port is plugged into the first port here. So 1 is 1, 2 is 2, 3 is 3. I'm anal retentive that way. This thing is exactly, we'll spend a little bit of time on these in a minute, but this is a gateway. I'm not sure why this one was put into this equipment rack, other than people seem to specify them in racks, because it's not hooked up to anything right now as far as outputs. If you need to pull this because you need more gateways than what's in the box, you're welcome to. It's just a spare piece of gear right now. And this is totally set it and forget it. Your fixtures out in the lobby are LED, and they're dimmable LED, and they're doing a 0 to 10 volt control for their dimming. This is a demultiplexer that's taking DMX and setting it out as 0 to 10 volt. There is no maintenance you can do on this. This is just so we can talk to those LEDs. And this is a UPS, just like your UPS is for anything else. You lose power, this is probably good for 45 to 60 minutes because there's so little load on it. A power outage is not going to hurt your system here at all. In the dimmer rack, you have the processor. Once again, it pretty much tells you system okay. And there's one other thing here that's telling you if the system's not okay, this will be flashing. You'll be able to see that from the front door, that this light would be flashing on and off, at which point you come in here to the processor and look at it and go, what do I do about this? Now, it's hot, it's too hot. If you're not comfortable in this room, then neither is the dimmer rack. If this room feels too warm for you, eventually the dimmer rack's going to say, this room is too warm. Heat is going to be your major problem with if you're having those issues. I don't think you're going to have that issue here. You've got AC built in. This room is very clean right now. I'm amazed that this rack is even as clean as it is at the end of a construction process. USB port here, so if you have to have an update to your configuration, we can send it to you or you can send it to us. You'll notice that the front of this looks a lot like the front of that one. Once again, a jog wheel with an enter button in the center. To reset this, you don't need an ink pen. There is a button here marked reset. So if you press the reset button, it goes out for a second, comes back and thinks about it, and then boots itself back up. So if things are totally locked up and not functioning here, press reset. That may clear up any problem that you're having. Hopefully you don't need to do this here, but I talked earlier on about some moving lights that have to have constant power rather than dimmed power. If you've run out of relay circuits and you need a dimming circuit to be a constant circuit rather than a dimming circuit, you can change the setup here by coming in and saying, the button here at the bottom with the wrench says setup, press the button, and you can set up dimmers, racks, circuit assignment, patching, network, file operations. Most of this has to do with the initial setup of the system. But set up dimmers, select dimmers and say enter. It now comes up and gives you a whole bunch of information. At the top, you may want to look at this, or maybe you'll see it on the video. It tells you you're on circuit 1. If I want to be on a different circuit, I can either scroll with the jog wheel or I can type in, I want to be on circuit 75, and then say enter. Now I can move the bar down to its firing mode. I'm sorry, to its control, where it says dimmable. If I hit enter, I now have options to change it to off, switched, latch lock, which is something don't deal with that, or back to dimmable. The two options you would make usually are between dimmable and switched. If I make this switched, circuit 75 now will not respond to dimming. It will only turn on and off. Because the moving lights, if they have to be plugged into a dim circuit, they don't want to, they're not happy with the power changing. They want to be only on or off, so you can change your module from switched mode to dim mode. I'm going to take this back now. We're on switched. We're going to scroll through until we are back on dimmable and say enter. These are the two things you really need to know about the dimmer rack: how to reset it and how to change the firing mode. You can also make that change by logging into the computer. We'll plug in my computer in a second and actually do this. Most of the rest of this here, I really wouldn't play with because it has to do with the initial setup of the rack. If you're curious about this, I don't want to waste your time either. You're never going to touch this. If you are, you're probably on the phone with phone support going, I have this problem, and they'll talk you through, scroll to this, scroll to this, scroll to this, and press enter. If you know about keeping this clean, pressing the reset button, there is one thing that I want to show you about the day-to-day operation, especially for you guys that will be technically doing this in the theater. I don't want to play with the console, I don't want to play with the architectural system. I want to turn some circuits on, and I want to make sure nobody else can turn them off. Come here to this where it says test. Press the test, and we have set levels, dimmer check, release set levels, and presets. If I hit set levels, I can now select one or all 96 dimmers here by saying 1 through, say, 10. Enter at 100. Enter. Oops, I did it wrong. Let's try this in 1 through 10 at 100. Enter. Jammed myself up. Try one more time. Set levels 1 through 10 at 100. Enter. We've now set dimmers 1 through 10 at full. And you'll see the indicator lights. 1 and 2 are up here. 3 and 4 are here. 5 and 6 are here. The numbering looks kind of screwy because this is the phase balancing. Phase A is up here, so we got 1 and 2 on phase A. Phase B in the center. 3 and 4 are on phase B. 5 and 6 are on C. So the numbering goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and so forth. But you'll see now we have indicator lights saying these circuits are on. Set levels is the big dog on the block. I'm not listening to the console. I'm not listening to architectural control. I'm controlled here. So I've now turned on those circuits. You can't do anything to them out front. You got to make sure when you do this, when you're done, that you release control back. And setting them to 0 is not releasing control back. Set level at 0 means I can't control it from the console out there either. So when you're done, go to exit out, back out, and it gives you a message that says dimmers were left on. Release set levels, yes, hit enter. If you don't want those left on, if you don't want to turn them off, go to no, and they will stay set until you release them. Because you could do ranges or a bunch of individual dimmers, and you may not remember which ones you have set, there is an option here to release set levels. If you press that, and it now says all levels have been released. Worst case scenario, you can't remember any of that, and I got levels set. What do you think your option is?
Push the reset button.
You got it. Pressing the reset button releases all set levels, puts you back to normal operation. One other thing here, and then we'll move to the computer, and then I'll answer any questions. Under setup, under these test options, you have presets. You can record 128 different presets in the dimmer rack. It's a sales point. I don't think many people actually do it, but if you're afraid some kid's going to spill a Coke on your console during the show, before you actually get to the show, come back here. Bring up Q1 and come to preset 1. You can record Q1 as preset 1 here in the rack. You can record Q2 as preset 2 in the rack. This is totally independent of the memory in the console. This is now memory in the processor. So you could record 128 different looks in the dimmer rack. Kid spills a Coke on the console just before the show. You can at least come back here, get somebody on a headset and say, okay, preset 1, go. They can activate preset 1. Preset 2, go. They can activate preset 2. You could run your entire show from the processor here in the rack. I don't know of anyone that actually does it, but it's a great selling point. Look, you can back up your whole show in the dimmer rack.
Now, does that processor, can it control both set both
No.
racks?
No, unfortunately. So, yeah, you would have to have presets in both racks. It's an option I have to show you, but it's not something that we use that frequently. So, questions about the care, feeding, maintenance of these things? I think we're in pretty good shape. Don't be afraid of them, and don't worry whether you remember all this or not. First off, you got a couple of videotapes of the whole thing, but 800-688-4116, it's all over our manuals.
I want to get your IP scheme on that.
Sure. Anybody else? My cell number is on there, and I am happy to help you. My primary job, though, is not phone support. I am field service. I'm probably turning on another system somewhere. There are 10 happy little people whose primary job is to help you. So call the 800 number that's on there, 800-688-4116.
That's the phone service.
That'll take you to the switchboard, ask for phone support. And even if you don't ask for phone support, if you just start talking to the receptionist there, Joe is probably who you get, but there's several others. You know, I'm at Melville High School in St. Louis and my lights aren't working. They'll go, oh, you want phone support. Okay, and they'll get you where you need to go.
You've been saying it here, hey, take the cell phone and call me. I'm not going to get cell service in this room, so are the computers, is there another way to do it not in here?
I've had good cell reception in here.
I'm getting like
Okay.
So is there another way to do it outside,
Yes.
outside the room?
Yeah, and that's what I'll show you with my laptop in a second. This is gear for you. These are your portable gateways. This is actually, we ship the software for this with every gateway. This is a program you would put onto your laptop that allows you to reconfigure gateways. So you get 4 or 5 of these. They make nice frisbees as well. You can put a C-clamp on this so that it goes on your electrics or out on your catwalk, plugs into the network taps, which is why we have all those network taps on the raceways, on the distribution front of house, on the walls. It does not require any additional power. We are picking up all the power, even though there's a power jack on this, we're picking up all the power we need, PoE, power over Ethernet. So it's totally powered off the network switch. If I do this right now, powers up. Takes a second to remember who it is. And says, I am portable number 1. So it's getting all its information over the network. The console sends it information. You decide, is this outputting DMX Universe 1, DMX Universe 2, or DMX Universe 3, 4, 5. We'll really hit that on the console training tomorrow. But you can reconfigure this to tell it which universe of DMX you're sending. It will display on the front which universe each port is doing. Universe 1, Universe 2. You have 3 of these and another one of these. I told you this one was a spare. You got another one of these, the piece of hanging hardware. So this one's got 4 ports instead of 2 ports. No, these are your communication from the console out to moving lights, color scrollers, any kind of DMX device that needs to be addressed through the console. This is it, because you won't be able to plug any of those directly into a network tap. They plug into the DMX ports on these. These then talk over the network to the console.
Now, this one did we have moving lights.
Moving lights, color scrollers, foggers, DMX devices. And each one of these does come up. It has the information on the screen, but I gave you the IP on each one. I set the IP addresses on these already, and by default, I took them to be the left port is DMX1, the right port is DMX Universe 2. So it's a nice default setting. It's a way to start.
Now,
Yeah, this is, there's an extension cord for your portable that's still here because there's already a 15-foot cord on it. If that's not long enough, you got another 25 feet here. Is there anything else in this box? I don't think so. Nope. So these are your spare parts, which you notice. Yeah. I made sure it didn't go away. They've been living on top of the rack. I think now they're done with the floor. That's as good a place as any. So we can sit down with the computer for a few minutes. I can show you how to get into this stuff, and then the IP scheme, I've kept coming back to this and coming back to this. We are in 255 subnet. 10.101 are the protected octets of the subnet. So in order to do this, I have to set my IP address to 10.101.1.xxx. .1 tells our system it's a computer. .xxx, which computer. So I've got my IP address right now set to 10.101.1.183 with a 255 subnet and a gateway. Because we're not really tied to a gateway, the IP and the gateway can match, or you can do what I've done on mine, 10.101.1.1. I'll get all of this in an email to you so that this is pretty much detailed out for you. But you got to make sure you can't just, there is no DHCP server here. Nobody's doling out IPs, so you can't just come and plug in your computer and assume, oh, I'm on the network. You do have to be set to the right IP. So with my IP address set to 10.101.1.xxx, I come into Internet Explorer. We love you, Bill Gates. Go to the address bar and type in, I want to talk to the dimmer rack, 10.101.101.101. Enter. It'll take it a second. Waiting, come on. There we go. It doesn't boot up real quickly because the whole idea is the processor is supplying the program, and the program is the lowest of its priorities. It's more concerned about am I controlling the lights. Once it boots up though, this is really pretty simplistic. On the left-hand side are some selections. Systems, dimmers, set levels, setups, and files. And then the information on this screen changes as you move from tab to tab. So system information tells you which software version you're on, what the power is right now coming to the rack. So phase A is getting 120 volts, phase B is getting 118, phase C is getting 123. You got some information right here without having to go back to the dimmer room. What are we on right now that is getting? Oh, I still got levels set back to the rack. Okay, we'll fix that. So, if I want to now look at dimmers,
Unless you push the reset button.
I can't reset from here, but
I thought you pushed the reset.
not on the second rack. I put the second rack into their
Solid.
yeah, just so I didn't black people out of here.
That's right.
So I go to dimmers. This is all basically informational that says everything's going to be in space 1. You only have one space here. But which circuit number, and this replicates the numbering you're seeing on the rack itself. 1, 2, and then 3 and 4 is down on phase B, 5 and 6 farther down. So 1, 2, 7, 8, 13, 14. This is the same order they're in on the rack. Telling us right now our source is DMX-A and everybody's at a level of 0. If I run a couple of these up, it doesn't refresh automatically. I have to refresh the screen. You are still getting off of DMX-A. That's been changed, that's why. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if I refresh that. Okay, so now I'm seeing 73%, 66%. All right, 3 and 4, 73 and 73, which is exactly what I'm seeing here. So this tells you the same information you have back at the dimmer rack. We looked at the setting levels in the dimmer rack. I can come here and set any individual level or a group of levels, 1 through 10 at full, and we've now set those the same as we had just done back at the dimmer rack. If I want to release all those levels, I can just come release all. They've been released. Setup. I can change that control mode, just like we were talking about back at the rack. So if I want to change that from dim to switch, I don't have to go back there. I can log in with the computer here and change circuit 1 to switched. I can make as many changes as I want, and notice that came up red. Do you want to apply those changes? If you just exit out at this point, no harm, no foul. If you do want to apply them, then it will change the module, or change the control mode. So put that back in dimmable and just ignore it. Yes, I do want to leave this page. Files. I can upload files, or I can download the configuration and save it off to the computer. So instead of having to go back with the USB key, I can do all this from here. And all you need is a Windows. It will work with Mac, just doesn't work quite as reliably. Windows-based computer and the ability to talk to 10.101.x.x. You'll get different arguments from different people. I have best luck with Internet Explorer. Some people say Firefox works really well. Some people say Google Chrome works well. I've had best luck with IE because that's what it was originally designed for 10 years ago. And I'm not sure, does any Windows-based computer come without Internet Explorer?
No, because Windows is built around.
Yeah. So you can always, as long as you've got Internet Explorer on the computer, you can always go back to that no matter what you're. Try Firefox or Mozilla or whatever else you want to use, and if it doesn't work, go back to Internet Explorer. So if we try, instead of 10.101.101, let's go to 10.101.10.101. That's the architectural control processor. That one comes up a good deal quicker. System control, timed events, network, log, configure. If I want to come back here to control, or actually let's go back to configure. No, I do want control. Presets. Learned something today. So the question you have about changing time, the only place you can do that is back at the processor. You cannot log into the computer and do that. But this is a little more complex. You have the tabs down the side. You also have tabs across the top. But what you're seeing is a little easier than going back there because you don't have that tiny little screen where things are scrolling across. You've got all this information here. If you want to actually come in here and change individual levels, you can select dimmer 1 and then edit the level and type in a different level and then say confirm. And this is exactly the same as bringing it up with one of the faders there or bringing it up with the console when we're talking the architectural processor. Once again, fairly self-explanatory. If you just look at what you've got on the screen, it's really pretty easy to do. So the last thing I got to show you here, and then any questions you have, this is the software that's on that CD that came with your portable gateways. This is called GCE, Gateway Control, Gateway Configuration Editor. You install this Once again, your computer does have to be on the 10.101 network. It goes out and it finds all the gateways that are on your system. So it's not finding portables right now, they're not plugged in. But it is finding downstage left, equipment rack, and downstage right. The 3 gateways are actually on the system. It tells you what their IP address is. It tells you what their port mode. You can set these up to be inputs. Once again, I'm not sure why you would have inputs coming up here. I don't think this is going to be a big touring house where you're going to have other people coming in and plugging their consoles. So pretty much, you probably want to leave those ports as outputs. And then each port can be configured to be a different universe of DMS. This will make a whole lot more sense once we do patching in this console tomorrow. But this is how you work with the configuration stuff. There's a lot of very deep things you can do with this. This is the screen you need on this. I need to be able to plug in a gateway and be able to change which universe it's talking to. Universe 1, Universe 2, Universe 3. The other stuff is way beyond the scope of almost anything you'd ever do in this facility. It has to do with advanced input patch and priorities and one thing taking control over another. I don't want to really bore you with that stuff. It is all in a manual that comes with it, but this program is so simple to use, and there's not even a save involved with this. If I go right now to this downstage left that is outputting on port, the left-hand port is outputting Universe 1, the right-hand port is outputting Universe 2. If I come here and say, I need that to be in Universe 3, I type 3, I click off the box, it's done. I don't have to save it, I don't have to say upload it, it's real time, it's happening. So to change it back, it's done. You can change the names on all of these. I put them in originally by their location, and your portables are all labeled as portable 1, portable 2, portable 3, and 4-port portable. That's pretty much what I got for you.